Hello everyone, and welcome to Colleen Connor's Seeing Eye Dog vlog, the Colleen and Joplin Show. Our background music this episode is dogs chewing on nylabones. So I am joined this episode by Cheryl. Hello. And Mary.
Hello.
And these are pretty much my two besties, best friends, good friends, and I've known them for a long time. And this episode is going to be about what it is like to have a disabled friend. This is a Chop Chops. Hi, baby. And specifically a friend with a visual impairment, because that's what I have. What do you guys, and I guess I'll start with Mary, what do you find that you do differently that you don't do around other people?
Describe where everything is.
Yes.
The description of where something is located has to be much more explicit in order for you to find it. So you can't just say, well, it's in the fridge. You have to say, well, it's on the second shelf on the right in the back, or, and everything has to be put back in its place. Everything has to have an assigned location.
Well, similar to that, I usually tap things if you're looking for them and I have them within reach, because sometimes I can't get out the words to be like, it's right here by my left hand. So I'm just like, it's there, and I just tap it so it makes noise. So sometimes I'll do that around other people and then realize I'm like, they don't need to know that. They can see it.
Similar to that is the reading the captions out loud.
Yes.
Before we started playing the audio description portion of the video, we used to read the captions out loud all the time. And then I found myself doing it for people who weren't visually impaired, just because I was like, oh, I didn't know if you were paying attention.
I've had a few friends say they start reading the subtitles, and then someone else in the room was like, we can see that, we can read. And they're like, oh yeah, Colleen's not here.
Oh, offering my arm for people, because sometimes if I'm walking on the right side of people, we're used to doing sighted guide, so I'm used to you walking on my right and holding my arm. Right. So occasionally, when I'm walking with someone who is on my right, I instinctually am like, here, do you want my arm? And then I'm like, that probably would not be considered appropriate or
helpful.
If
If you do want to, sighted guide is where someone sighted is guiding someone who is blind. And normally we go off your right shoulder and we hold onto your arm like just above your elbow. And that's an appropriate way to guide someone. So, especially now that I have a guide dog, she's on my left. So the appropriate position is for you to be off my right shoulder, slightly behind, so she knows she's in charge of guiding.
Yes.
And so I know it's a switch sides.
Mm-hmm. Recently. So what are some things that you notice that we do as people who've known you for a while and friends that other people who are not as familiar with your disability might not do?
Describe where things are. People will forget, and sometimes even people who know me well will forget that I can't see because I'm fairly independent. I also have a different experience. I was sighted and I'm going blind, so I have a little bit of a different experience. So people will forget to tell me where things are, and I knock them over or run into them. People will move things without telling me. It's a similar experience of knocking things over.
Like me changing the trash cans.
Accidentally.
On purpose. Switch the location of the trash can with the recycling bin outside. And forgot to tell Colleen.
So I had been doing the recycle and trash for that week, and all of the trash was in the recycle and all the recycle was in the trash. And so I took the recycle to the curb instead of the trash, and the trash people wouldn't take it. Even though it was full of trash as a recycle bin. And then we had to try and swap them later on in the week, and it was pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Digging all the trash out of the bin and putting it into the actual trash bin. And then waiting a whole nother week for them to come and get it again.
Something that people will forget to tell me is that they've arrived in a conversation or exited a conversation or a room. So someone will arrive and just be standing there, and I'm talking with people or a person, and then they'll just chime in, and I'm like, whoa, someone has arrived.
I've been here for 5 minutes listening to you talk.
Normally I can hear people, but sometimes you can't. So it's nice if somebody is like, hey, it's Mary, you know, like
Yeah.
in the room or whatever. Worse than that is leaving the room without telling me. I've had many conversations with a couch, an empty room. I'm telling a story because I'm long-winded, and I'm telling a story and someone has walked away and I just hear from a distance, what? And I'm like, no one's in the room right now and I'm just speaking to myself. Now at least I can pretend I'm talking to Joplin. And
Until she walks away.
yeah. So if you are friends with a blind person, tell them also when you are exiting a room, so that we know you're leaving.
One thing that I remember is to not sneak up on you. Similar to entering a conversation. Be obvious about when you are entering a room so that you don't come up behind them and say hi in a very nice way
The sudden
and hug
shriek.
them and then get a
I also have crazy reactions
Yes.
to things. Surprises. I'm like, what has occurred? Yeah, so sneaking up on me is not good. Another thing that I find that people who don't know me do is have a lot of things going on at once. So they might have the TV on and some music and they're watching Snapchat at the same time. And there's just a lot of auditory information and then someone's trying to talk to me and I'm like, I'm hearing all of those things at the same time, so I'm processing zero of them.
Mm-hmm.
People forget that if you can't see, all visual information is not happening for me, so I'm paying attention to my other senses, and so it's very, at least for me, it's overwhelming when there's a lot of different noises going on. I cannot focus on a conversation.
That makes sense.
That might be a different issue also, but oftentimes people have multiple disabilities, which is another thing that people who don't know me, I don't tend to talk about the other things, the mental illness problems that I have, plus the chronic pain that I have. People don't tend to know that about me unless you really know me well.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't consider that when interacting with me. And why I might all of a sudden be like, I'm sitting down now. We're going to wait here for 5 minutes while I sit down.
Yes. On sort of a positive note, I guess, there are some times that I notice that we are with other people who don't necessarily know you that well. And they're very concerned about what you're doing, how you're feeling, if you're accommodated correctly, which is great that they're caring about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize I'm like, she's fine. Like, you really don't have to worry about it. I kind of find it strange that they're very concerned with a particular aspect of what's happening.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, in general, and this has happened to both of you, is people talk to you
Yeah.
instead of talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary's gone with me to a couple doctor's appointments or like help me fill out forms.
Yeah. And then they just like start, they hand the clipboard to me, they hand the pen, and they start talking to me. If we're at the counter and you're checking out and they'll like hand out the receipt and they're handing us like in the card and I'm like, no, she can take it. She can sign for it, you know.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. They'll be like, does she have her ID?
She can hear you, you know.
She's right here.
Yes, I do, actually. I'm assuming you're talking about me at this point, or are you talking about my dog? So, because that's legitimate, she can't use her mouth words to explain to you where her ID is.
True. It is very funny to be a sighted person with you because sometimes people have very interesting reactions to you that you can't see.
Yeah, I don't know what people react to me. I know that, and many of us with physical disabilities, we know we're stared at. Like, I get that I walk in somewhere and I'm stared at, whether it was because I had my cane or now because I have a seeing eye dog. So most people now, I think it's more about Joplin's adorable.
Yes.
With the cane, it was more like people were like standing back, almost like, oh, she's blind, you know, stay out of her way, she's contagious kind of deal. And now it's more like, oh, look at the puppy, and it's more like they're creeping closer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, it's the dog.
There's no happy
No
medium.
touching.
They either want to be on me or they're like, leper! I'm gonna catch it. Blindness you really can't catch. You really can't you can't catch the genetic disorders I have. It's not something you can catch.
My favorite cane story was when we were in, I think it was King's Cross Station,
Which is in London, England.
Yes, when we went to London. And I was walking with you, we were doing sighted guide, and you had your cane. And it was quite busy. It's a very big station, and there were people bustling around. And
Going to Hogwarts?
Yes, but I was watching these people, and a lot of people notice you and get out of the way, and that's wonderful. And this one person just, I don't know if he was confused, if he didn't know where he was, but he proceeded to cross in front of us, then cross in front of us again, hop over your cane, like the tip of your cane. He was right in front of us. Hop over the tip of the cane, and then continue on. And I'm like, what? How? Why? What?
Some people just play hopscotch with my cane. Like, I've had that happen multiple times where people are like, "Wah!" And I'm like, why did you...
It's an alternative to the jump rope.
I was like, why are you...
I mean,
Also, I'm moving it back and forth, so, like, I'm gonna clip you either way. Like, I just, you know...
Well, he cleared the cane, so it was great, and you didn't know that he was there.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know the glory of these moments.
So I had to explain it to you, but it took me a while to be like, how you just, what?
It's very strange. Also, what do you guys think that you might have to do that you don't have to do around a quote-unquote normal person? So you suggested, like, things that you have to put things back in a particular place. That's very helpful for me, so I can always find it. But even, like, for instance, Mary and I do a lot of shopping together. And I would, as someone who's blind, I would not go clothes shopping by myself.
Right.
In a store. I wouldn't look for shoes. I wouldn't do that by myself. A lot of times we'll shop online, but that stuff isn't described well. So even then I'm like, can you look at this and see if the size is right, or like what color is this? Because the color is just called Blue Breeze Skim Mountain, and you're like,
Or even better, IAG 11562.
that's a great color. It's a good dye right there, a solid purple, I don't know.
I think the most I notice is when we go shopping is that I tend to call out and list everything in the aisles. Just because you don't have that visual cue like somebody else who's like, oh yeah, I need that, or I need that. So as we're going through the store, I'll like, okay, do you need Q-tips and soap or shampoo, or we're in this aisle now, and is there anything you can think of that we need that isn't necessarily on the list, but just seeing it or hearing it listed, oh yeah, we need that.
Oh yeah, because you think when you're going down an aisle, as someone who's sighted, you just
You can glance at
glance
things.
and you're like, oh yeah, we needed spices, like we needed cinnamon. Also, my outfit, or
Yes.
jewelry, or there is. I do a lot of. Do I look okay? And eventually, as someone who's friends with a disabled person, I think you guys just have gotten to a place now where you're like, nope.
I think I've said that to you as well.
We've talked about you wearing orange.
Yes.
Or I've said, Colleen, you know those don't match, right?
Is this I'm also quirky, so
Yes.
it's like, was that
It could be,
intentional?
yeah,
Yeah,
it could be
sometimes-
either.
Yeah, I have said, is this intentional or did you just mess it up? Okay. Okay.
Or I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm wearing my blue and brown skirt to go with my blue shirt. There's no blue on that.
That was our recent conversation.
And you realize that doesn't match at all, and then by then you're just already ready, and you're like, yep, I realize that, let's go. You're wearing brown with black shoes, and you're just like, well, it's happening.
Yep. If someone stops you, just go, I'm blind. And keep going.
Also, I always tell them it's great having a friend with a disability as an excuse for anything. I always tell them, if something happens to you and you need to get out of a situation, just say, my friend is blind, and then just walk away. Don't explain it. Don't just use me as a scapegoat. It's fine. Like, oh my gosh, you fell and you're dying? Okay, I gotta go. My friend's blind. And
Yes.
then just like, she started a fire. Just leave.
Yep.
Just walk away.
Furniture.
Don't move the damn furniture.
Even yesterday. I felt very good because there was something in the middle of the room. And I was like, oh, I should move that because we're getting ready to eat and people will be out here. Okay. So I picked it up and I moved it. And then, like 3 minutes later, I hear Colleen scream in pain. And she ran into, like, the ottoman that we had just gotten because it was slightly out of the way, but she managed to run into it.
I find things too. Like, I will, for some reason. Also, this is just me too. if you're, and it happens to a lot of people who have to take any kind of medications too, sometimes your memory is affected. So I ask constantly, where's my phone?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this? Where is that? Because you can glance around and find it. Normally you can be like, it's on the table, but I legitimately just placed it there.
Yes.
And then I'm like, where'd it go?
And luckily, I do have a pretty decent memory about placement of things, because that one time that you called me and you were looking for something specific, and I had no reason to know where it was, but I was like, oh yeah, it's underneath your keyboard to the right over the phone. And she was like, how did you do that? I'm like, because I noticed it the last time that I was over there.
It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I find myself scanning the floor as I go around the house just to make sure, because with all the dogs, they have nylon bones everywhere. And they're constant landmines. So I'll just go and I'll just chuck one into the basket as I go along, because they've got like 5 laid out right in the path to walk to the door.
Oh yeah.
So, you know.
No, Jocelyn's new thing is leaving them on the stairs. On the seeing eye dog is the culprit. She takes an Ilabone and she'll be chewing on it, and then she'll take it from Roscoe and then move it. And she'll take it from, and I'm walking down the stairs and I'm like, it's on a step. It's on a step. And the worst is Kongs too. So the Nylabones are like stepping on some kind of shiv, and you get good at log rolling when you're like you step on a Kong and you're like, don't fall over, because they're round, and oh my god. Or just the dogs. They won't be making any noise and they're just laying there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I just tripped over you, better move. I don't know.
Roscoe on the couch.
Oh, it's another one. Sit right on Roscoe because he's on the couch, and I'm like, well, is this seat taken?
All of the seats are taken. All of the time. It's all Roscoe's.
It's the whole couch.
Shopping for appliances was fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we had to buy a new dishwasher, and finding something that's not a touchscreen is a giant pain.
It's hard now to find appliances with actual buttons or dials that have settings.
So we found something kind of that works. At least it has an audible tone, so that when you change the settings, you can kind of tell that you're changing them.
Right.
And the people at the store were very helpful, and they pulled all the appliances out and had to hook them up to the power source and all that, just so we could make sure we were buying the right one.
Yeah, the one that made the dinging noise and the happy tune when it's done cleaning. Same with the grill. I bought a countertop grill, and we tried to find a grill with like pre-done settings, so you could press a button for like poultry or burgers or fish, or you press a button. And if you live with me in particular, everything needs bumpy labels. It's just fun. It's more fun to have Braille on everything you own. So like the washing machine, I make Braille labels for the different settings, and the microwave has raised dots on it, so I know where the 5 is, and the 1, and the start, and the clear, and because everything is flat now, it's either touch screens or there are no physical buttons, it's all just a flat screen. So yeah, shopping for appliances is fun, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And the only other option is to go completely smart, so like you could control it by your phone. I know some of the ovens are starting to do that, and like.
Yeah, sometimes, recently a friend gave me an Echo Dot, an Alexa, and so your other option is to go automate it, where I can control something with my voice, or...
So either super difficult to find or super expensive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no in between. The other thing I have to remember is to close all the cabinet doors. I've had several instances, and it didn't help that to start with I really didn't have cabinet doors on the cabinets because I was in the middle of a kitchen renovation.
Yep.
So the top cabinets didn't have anything, and you preferred it that way.
I got very used to just, there were no cabinet doors because the cabinet doors were off, so we would just reach and grab things and everything was placed and it was great, and so I didn't get used to having cabinet doors, and so...
There's been several incidences of running into the doors.
Which are generally at eye level, so that's fun.
Yeah, the kitchen cabinets right there.
Well, it's a microwave.
I'm surprised I haven't, oh yeah, the microwave's another great one. Yeah, I'm surprised, leaving doors open in general, drawers,
Yes.
similar.
Kind of falls in line with the putting everything back where you found it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making sure everything has a place, which includes the drawers and the cabinet doors.
And honestly, I tell people, once you get a little used to it, it's honestly better for able-bodied people as well, because you also know where everything is.
Yeah.
I've gone to some people's houses where, you know, I'm like, so where do you keep your spatulas? And they're like, throw it in somewhere. I don't know where it goes. And I'm like, you live here. You've lived here for 20 years. Like, how do you never know where your spatulas go? Like, that would drive me crazy regardless. So
for us people with type A personalities, it's okay. Everything can have a label and everything can have a place. And if it doesn't have a place, you don't need it.
Exactly.
And I think it's really nice to have friends who don't mind accommodating you and don't make you feel like you are a pain. Because I have self-esteem issues, I think, a lot of the time because of my disability, where I'm like, I'm sorry you have a blind friend, like, I'm sorry you got a lemon, especially because both of you were friends with me when I was much more sighted.
Yes.
As I've lost my vision, you get scared that you're gonna lose your friends because you're like, well, you know, I struggle now with more things, and it's nice to have like encouragement or help when I do need it, but also not babysitting.
Yeah.
I don't know, just it's when you're friends with someone with a disability, what's really funny is the best friends that you can have are also people who just carry on. You know, you're kind of sitting on the stairs and you can't make your way up the stairs yet, and you're just like, I can't quite move yet. And they'll just be on the couch downstairs, you alright? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, just trying to get up the stairs. And they're like, okay, let me know if you need help. Or like the other day, I was sitting next to Cheryl and I said, wow, I can't hear anything out of my left ear. She was like, good thing I'm on your right. And it's just like, unless you need something specified, it's just like, alright, let me know when you need a thing.
Yeah, because a lot of things you don't need. Or sometimes if I was honestly too lazy to get up and show you where something was, I'd just be like, just go right. Yeah, that's somewhere over there.
Yep. And it's just, you know, it's also, I don't know if there are some, I mean, I love you both and appreciate you. And I'm trying to think if there's any funny stuff that's happened because of me having a disability versus...
Well, okay, maybe one thing about living with a blind person might be when the toilet clogs. Because that happened a couple times in the apartment and you don't necessarily know.
Correct.
Because if, you know, sometimes you can hear it, but sometimes you're not necessarily paying attention. And then sometimes you just hear a scream from the bathroom. And you run over and you're like, what can I do?
Colleen has a very distinctive scream.
Yes.
I also have very distinctive like noises. Like I have a struggle noise and a lost noise, and so things that you guys would know that other people would need explanation. So like if I can't find you in a store, I'm like meow, 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 until someone's like, hey, over here, over here. But to other people, I'm a blind woman meowing in the middle of a store.
Yep.
The other is if I can't reach something or if I'm trying to do something, I sound almost like it's like a baby sloth. And it's a noise I don't think about that I'm doing, or like a porcupine or something. I'm like, I can't open this, or like, and you're like, hey, struggle, what's happening?
And that's like the noise of like, I shouldn't need help with this, but I do.
Yeah.
Or like, I kind of need help, but it's not like imperative.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deliberately ask for it, I'm just going to wait for you to assume.
Yeah.
Or when you become so comfortable with your friends that you assume things, like just handing them a cardboard box and then just standing there, like you're making brownies and you just hand them the cardboard box and you're like mixing, and they're like, do you want me to recycle this for you? What do you want me to, I'm like, no, read me the directions. Shouldn't you have known that? Like, didn't you just assume things and just do them on my whim?
I don't know which step you were at.
Don't know what you are asking me. anything interesting that you've learned because of me?
I think, personally, I have become a little better at asking people what they need, or like specific communication styles. Like rather than assuming that I know what someone needs help with, just asking them. I think I tended to treat everyone as individuals before, but now I have a little bit of more practice with it.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's an individual.
And mine's not so much a change in like something I actually do, so much as how I actually think. Because as much as your disability is a physical manifestation that people can see, there are so many other things going on underneath the surface. So when I look at somebody else, I don't assume that their life is perfect, or that they're, you know, everything's easy for them, or that just that one problem that they seem to be dealing with today is their only issue. So everyone might have an excuse to be a pain in the butt sometimes, or, you know, something like that. It's just like, okay, you know, I'm going to give you a break on that. I'll give you a pass on being rude, or I'll give you a pass on just being short with me today, because I don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, it's a realization that there's no judgment. You don't know anybody really what's going on.
Yeah. And I have a motto that I say all the time, which is, if we all were having a meal together in the universe and you put your problems out on a table, you would pick yours right back up, because you have no idea what anyone else is dealing with. And you also know how to deal with you and your situation, or you're working on it, or you're getting help to do that. You don't know how to deal with having another issue. So, for instance, if I just took away your glasses and did an eye patch over one of your eyes,
I wouldn't have any coping mechanisms, and I would probably trip on everything and die.
Yeah. So, yeah, and so often, all of us, no matter what, you have your own life experiences and your own, you might not have just one disability. You might have multiple disabilities. A lot of people with hearing impairments or visual impairments, we have other problems. It was caused by, let's say you have diabetes and then you go blind. You might have gone blind because of your diabetes, but now you have two things. Or, you know, you were born with a specific kind of lack of oxygen, so you're deafblind, or, you know, things like that. But I'm glad I've made you guys think and broaden your perspective. And so the other thing I can think of would be, what's frustrating about being friends with me, or being friends with someone who has disability?
Probably the time management thing. Because you have a really hard time with it, and I grew up with like being on time is late and 5 minutes early is on time. So then when we're like, okay, well, we need to leave the house at 10, and I'm having to, you know, okay, Colleen, I had to learn as a habit, okay, Colleen, we're leaving in 30 minutes. We're leaving in 20. You've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's just a different concept. So sometimes it can be frustrating. I'm like, okay, we have to be on time. Let's go.
Yeah, we need to go. And that has to do with me not leaving enough time because I'm visually impaired. So I don't leave enough time for me to be finding my stuff and stuff like that. I still act like I can get ready in 5 minutes, and I can't anymore. And so it's the thing that I'm trying to budget for, and I'm terrible at budgeting time. And it's for people with disabilities, it is, you just have to budget more time, and that's frustrating for us too.
Yeah. So then I just try and help by, okay, well, you can't do it in 15 minutes, so you need 20 minutes warning, and okay, well, really maybe 30 minutes, and it's just an adjustment period as we realize, okay, well, you know, you'll just need a bigger warning.
Yeah.
I think for me, because I've never been particularly eloquent with words or quick with them, that occasionally I need to communicate something to you, or like you ask me a question, and it takes me like 5 minutes to get there, and I'm just like, just give me a minute, I need to process stuff. Or like you'll ask me to describe something that's going on in like movies or something, and I'm the worst audio describer ever. And I know this about myself. So sometimes I'm stumbling over my words trying to make sure that you get what's important about whatever movie we're watching. And usually I just have to pause it and be like, okay, what questions do you have?
Yeah. Eventually it got to a point, before there's any kind of professional audio description, sometimes it was like, pause, what is even going on?
Yeah.
And sometimes the best is when they answer, I have no idea. I don't actually know either, so.
I've started pulling up my phone because I am the worst at remembering names of
Oh,
characters.
yeah.
So I usually have a cheat sheet on my phone. Okay, Colleen, this is who's going on, because I can follow it because I can see the character, but I have no idea what their name is. So I have to follow along with my IMDb or whatever and pull up the names of all the characters. So I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But having the Blu-ray with the audio description is much easier, and I'm sure Colleen appreciates the professionalism much better than my description.
Yeah, no, you are actually quite good at describing. My friend Kelly, very good at describing. You are not.
I'm not.
And you do other things very well.
Yes.
But,
I'm the kind of person who would be like, and then he did the thing with the schmoodly-doo, and they jumped
The thingamabob.
there.
jumping, happening. And I'm like, what?
Yes.
But I think I would agree with you, your frustration comes in, I am bipolar. So sometimes I speak very quickly and very excitedly, and it's like, Colleen, shut up. Like, I have no other words for, like, Colleen, you're talking too much, you're over-explaining, or like,
Oh, yeah.
I know that gets irritating to people.
Sometimes, yeah.
Or the telling everyone where everything is.
Oh, like trying to help everyone else out as if they were also visually impaired, which is nice. But no one here needs that,
Yeah.
and we already have the information
Like
because we can look at it.
We're in the other room, and she's like, just so you know, the cup is on the right side of the counter by the stove. So just be careful. Or,
And everybody's like, Colleen,
we could see it.
we don't need that information. Or I'll be, the reverse of that is I'm amazed when people can see. Like sometimes I'm so used to not seeing that someone will read a sign while we're driving and I'm like, wow, you could read that? Like, Colleen, if I couldn't read that, we'd have a serious issue about me driving the car right now.
Yes.
Driving me around must get annoying sometimes.
Not really, because you've kind of gotten into a system. So it's not like you're going everywhere, but you also use other services, which I know are annoying for you because the time management for that, it takes so much more longer for you to go somewhere than it is for me to just drive you there and back. But you make an effort to be independent of relying on other people to get you someplace. So with Joplin, it's even better because you walk down the street to go to Walgreens or your pharmacy to pick up your meds. I don't have to take you anymore. So I haven't been there in months because I don't have to take you. You go almost every week with Joplin as an exercise and making her work. So I don't ever mind that. Now, it's just rearranging my schedule.
Yeah, and I think when I did have to, drive you around sometimes, normally it would be, hey, we are going to go to the grocery store. Let's all go. Versus like you need to pick something up. Sometimes it would be things like, I can do this faster, just let me do it. If it was a matter of time. At first, I felt kind of bad when I would say that I couldn't take you somewhere because of my schedule or whatnot. And eventually I was just like, you know what? I can't.
Yep.
And you'd be like, hey, can you take me this place tomorrow? And I'm like, nope. You're like, okay.
Yep.
And because I couldn't.
Yeah, and I think you're both also very kind people. And so it's when you are friends with someone who has any impairment at all, sometimes it's way easier for you to step in. Other times you just don't have the time. And it is okay to say no to people.
Yeah.
And that goes for anything in your life. But it's okay to be like, no. Also, I have learned, time management wise, to ask you in advance for something. Next week at some point, can you please help me look at all my bank statements?
Yeah. And that's super helpful because I like to plan my life very well, and I think you do too, Mary, where I'm like, if you ask me to do something that day, I'm like, where am I going to fit that in? It's very helpful.
Yeah, so a lot of times, if you have a disability, planning is important. Planning ahead just becomes a necessity because there will be some point where you need help, regardless of whether you want it or not. It's going to be a heck of a lot easier, or it's going to be a necessity that you need help. And it's awesome to have good friends who don't mind, and also I don't pay them
Much.
I did
Pay us in Starbucks.
yes.
That too, yeah,
Yes.
actually.
I do.
Usually it's, actually, a lot of times it'd be like, hey, can we go to the grocery store and then I'll get you Starbucks? And I'll be like, sure.
Yeah. I try and compensate mostly with food for some reason. Or I'll offer to help with gas or something like that. Like, it's not that I'm completely ungrateful. For me, I'm very not into being entitled. I don't feel like I'm entitled to any more than anybody else. And some people, especially with disabilities, can sometimes be very entitled about things. And I've seen that happen, and I don't do that to my friends. Yeah.
And I think it comes from, you do have to know how to advocate for yourself, and sometimes that sounds rude.
Or what's great is when you guys come to my defense.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes that's really fun to just watch.
Or when someone's mean to you and I get righteously angry.
Yeah, it's just fun. Sometimes that's probably the best part. Is just sometimes you just step back and your friends will advocate for you. And that's always fantastic. So if you guys have any comments or questions or stories of your own, or you are friends with someone or a loved one of someone with a disability and you want to comment, please leave the comments below. Also subscribe to this channel, click the little bell so you can be notified of when I upload new videos. Stay tuned, we have a lot of really cool videos coming up. And like it, thumbs up, favorite it, share it, compliment us because we're gorgeous, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.